Hello,
Hi.
Joshna.
How
How
are
are
you?
you?
I'm
Great,
good,
great,
thank
great.
you.
And it's a pleasure, Joshna, having you on our Insta Live. It's an honor
Thank
too.
you. Thank you for having me today. Thank you.
Is it your first Insta
Yes,
Live?
because I haven't done any of this before. So, yes, this is my first time I'm on Insta Live.
So history is being made today.
Yeah. I wouldn't call this history, but yeah, for me
No,
it's
it's historic for us. We have a
it's something.
champion who has been playing our sport for 20 years. It's an honor for us. We will not forget it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Joshna. So I'll give a brief introduction. It's a difficult job giving a brief introduction to a champion like Joshna. Today I'm going to try.
Just keep it
See, she
very
has been
simple.
playing. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that. Joshna has been a pioneer in her sport, squash. She has been playing from the year 2000. She has won 18 national titles, senior national titles. As far as I know, in Ranji Trophy, Mumbai have done it. In Santosh Trophy, Bengal have done it. In basketball, services have done it. In volleyball, Punjab have done it. But an individual winning 18 trophies, that is 18 national titles, is unprecedented. We have that champion, that national champion with us, and she has 4 medals in the Asian Games, 2 medals in the Commonwealth Games, one silver and one bronze, and she's the reigning Asian champion, two-time Asian champion rather, and her highest ranking in the world was 10. And she started playing nationals when she was only 12. She has truckloads of achievements. I can go on and on, but this program will get over by the time, so I'll stop it here. Fantastic achievements,
Thank you.
Joshna. And so,
Thank
inevitably,
you.
the first question: what is the secret of your longevity? It's been performing in 3 decades, 2000, and then subsequent decades too.
Well, like you said, you make me feel very old because I started so way back, and the dream was always to play for India. Like that was always my dream growing up, and so yes, I managed to have a fairly decent junior career in squash, and then I wanted to go professional. Even though I had opportunities to go abroad to study, and pursue squash and academics, but squash was always my main focus. And so I went pro when I was 19, and yeah, I haven't looked back since. And I love what I do. It gives me a lot of excitement. I love the life that I live because of it. And I believe that, I have a few good years left of squash in me. So I just try to do my best every day at training or with my game.
So, a couple of Asian Championship, Asian Games, and Commonwealth medals to be won, right?
A few more, a few more.
Okay. And no, you have to tell us the secret. Is it the mango pickle, or is it the rasam, or is it the rice? No, what keeps you going?
It's the combination of being from Chennai, living here, having access to all the good squash courts, the clubs, where I've started, playing at. We also have an academy here, where there are a lot of good players, good coaches that I have access to. And more than that, is just this has just been something that's my dream, my, like I said, like my passion. And of course I have to put in the work extra as you get older. You start feeling it a lot more on your in your body. And so I have a very good team that I work with, of my dietitian, my sports psychologist, my coaches, choosing the right tournaments, training correctly, like really looking after my body to give me the best that I can at this stage of my career.
Joshua, many squash players look up to you. Everybody knows that. But and even sports persons in other fields, other sports might look up to you. For the way you take care of your body, you maintain your fitness, keep that motivation going. Uh, have you heard anything special from people from other sports? I know that you are good friends with Sania Mirza and Sindhu. I mean, do they admire your work ethic, your fitness?
Um, uh, we're all so busy in our own lives and training and all of that. We don't really, to be honest, discuss much about fitness. I mean, Sindhu is obviously super fit, and so yeah, I mean, we're all in just different sports, and we don't really talk much about fitness
Yeah.
to be honest. But yeah, I love taking care of my fitness and my strength. I like being fit. it motivates me to play better, to to keep improving. And yeah, and secondly, like, you have to be super fit as a squash player. You can't take your body for granted. A lot of the girls on tour are really good, really skillful, and as well extremely fit. So for me to keep up and to get better, I have to watch my fitness and my training every day.
Could you tell us about your friendship with Sania Mirza and Sindhu? I mean, they will keep praising you. I saw your Twitter page. You're not that active, but they keep praising you. I think they admire your career.
I don't want to talk much about them, but they're just lovely girls, and they're obviously very good at what they do. They're very humble, very down to earth, and that's something I really like in them. And it's just such a nice quality to have when you've achieved so much in life, and you're still the same person no matter what. And both of them are like that.
Joshna, I know that you are an out and out Chennai girl. What do you like about Chennai? I mean, grown up in Chennai, I mean, you achieved a lot through your training in Chennai. I mean, formative years. So the city must be very close to your heart. What do you like most about Chennai?
I mean, obviously, besides growing up here and being comfortable here, Chennai is obviously a beautiful city to also live in. We're pretty relaxed. Yeah, there's lots to do, but at the same time, there's no crazy traffic jams that I feel like when I'm in other cities. Like, I'm just able to live, I'm just able to live life at my pace, over here. And yeah, and more than that, I'm not sure if you know, I'm employed by, the Tamil Nadu Electricity Board. So, obviously I have my job here as well, and yeah, my roots are here, my life is here.
Okay. So after your title, the newspaper editors can say electric performance from Joshna. So employee will become.
I never, that is one thing no one ever calls me, is electric or performance in electricity. So I'm the least important person in electricity, actually. So I'm just employed there as one of their sports people.
What are you, Joshna? In TNEP, what are you? Because I think
So
you were in the first batch of sports persons that were recruited by the Tamil Nadu government.
correct. So I am actually a deputy director of sports within the board, and it is my job to promote and develop sport within the board, because we have many, many different sports, like volleyball and basketball and various other sports. So it's my job to help it get better and better.
Okay, because in the 80s and 70s, Tamil Nadu Electricity Board used to have very good teams in volleyball and football. So maybe after some time, journalists will start asking you, why are you not recruiting people in other sports?
Yeah, because you're right. The recruitment stopped for a very long time, and they've just, I think last year, Honorable Chief Minister reintroduced that, and they reserved sports for different departments in Tamil Nadu. So hopefully that will kickstart again. And obviously now is a very difficult time for everyone, and that's kind of on the back burner now. But hopefully when things get better, we can recruit more athletes.
With a dynamic sports person in an important position, we can expect more in the future.
Hopefully. Thank you.
And Yoshna, and I'm going to keep asking you, throwing you questions from viewers. Amit
Yeah.
Tandon is trying to pull your leg. Tandon is Amit Tandon.
I'm
He's
not. I'm
asking,
not
how can I be
answering
like
any
you?
questions. I'm not answering any questions from my teammates or anyone who I play squash with.
How can I be like you? How can I be like you? He's asking you.
Tell him he's not. He can never be as like me ever. There's no
Okay,
hope.
Amit Reddy is serious. Please give us some motivation. How do you keep playing for so long?
So Amit is someone I know actually as well. I play squash with him occasionally. So I think he's just trying to make fun of me. But the motivation is to keep working hard, keep going and playing, practicing so that you can get better.
Okay, Joshua, I have to ask you this question. Why did you choose squash? Who was responsible for your career in squash? Was that Mr. Chinappa?
Yes, my dad started playing a long time back, and he actually introduced me to the game. I started at the Madras Cricket Club, the famous Madras Cricket Club, and I would tag along with him to the squash course because he would play. And I was about 8, 9, and I would run into court every time a member came out. And I had a whole little group of friends who were my age group, and we would just run around everywhere to any court that was free. And yeah, and I was playing badminton, I was playing tennis, I was playing everything. And then my parents kind of sat me down and said, you can play whatever you want, and but just choose one sport. We don't want you playing everything. And so I ended up choosing squash because my dad played. He was my coach for a very long time. And it just seemed very familiar to be with someone who was going to help me in the game. So I ended up choosing squash.
How good was he player, your dad? This Crash?
He was pretty good. He played, at the state level, nothing higher than state. And but yeah, I mean, he helped me a lot in my game. But we definitely had a lot of issues with the father-daughter coaching relationship. But yeah, it was still a very fruitful one. I won many tournaments, under his guidance. Still, I had to get more professional help.
Okay. Are the problems still there or sorted out between father and daughter?
As long as we're not discussing squash, we're fine.
And Joshna, I know people from Coorg have a fantastic heritage tradition in hockey. So was not Mr. Chinappa interested in hockey because we have people from Coorg settled in Chennai had played hockey, like BP Govinda, for example, Olympian World Cup winner. How was his interest in hockey? Because Coorg and hockey cannot be separated.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Hockey is very famous in Coorg, and there's the big family cups that are played
Yeah, yeah.
within families. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think my dad has played very basic. Personally, I think hockey is one of the hardest sports you can play. So I don't think he was very good at it. So I really don't think he played it very seriously, or like how any Coorg usually would. It was probably just for
Oh,
fun at a club level.
okay. I don't want to upset your mother. Tell us about your mother. And she has been very important in my career. And you also had an extra A in your name, Joshna. It was she, I heard, who chopped it off. Tell us about that and your mother as well.
Yeah, it's really weird because my mom named me Joshana, and then a few years back she didn't tell me. I suddenly find in the papers my name is Joshna. So I said, what happened to the A? And so I was like, what happened to the A in between? She's like, no, I just felt like your name should be 6 letters and not 7 letters. And so I said, maybe you should have told me before you did that. Like, because everyone's asking me, like, why is the A and NA? And people are calling me Joshana, but my name is Joshna. So she said, I just wanted to remove the A.
Just how important has her role been in your career? Could you tell us about that? Your mother's role in your career? Was she interested in is she interested in the sport? Early days, did she used to travel with you? Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, my mom has played a huge role because when I would get dropped off at training, she would come and pick me up and take me to school. So she played a very vital role in balancing my squash with my academics because she was very particular that I had to study and finish college, which I did not want to do. I wanted to play all the time. So she was like I just said, like she was very, the discipline factor, in my life. I've been traveling alone internationally for tournaments from the time I was 10 years old. My parents couldn't afford to travel with me everywhere, so they came maybe for one tournament a year, and maybe my mom came for another tournament that my dad, didn't come. But more or less, I kind of traveled on my own. But having said that, the couple of tournaments that my mom did come, she's actually very good with giving strategy, like when I would play. So when I've come off court in between games, like she would be the one talking to me and telling me what I needed to do. So she's pretty good that way, actually, with squash as well.
Who's a better coach of dad or mom?
I'm going to say my mom in between games, because my mom is very relaxed. So when I would look out of court and see my mom, she would be cool as a cat. But when I would look out and see my dad, he would be sweating more than I was. So
Yeah.
I would get so nervous looking at my dad, and then obviously as a child, you have all these emotions anyway while you're playing. And then if you look at a parent who's looking more nervous than you, then you get more nervous. So I kind of preferred my mom traveling with me for tournaments.
Josh, I was talking to you about Coorg. One champion from Coorg is saying, hi, Rohan Papana. He's saying
Oh,
hi to you.
he's awesome. Hi, Rohan.
Good, Rohan. How are you? How is the lockdown treating you? Tell us more about that. And there is
He's
another
having a
fan.
great time. He's having a great time in
Okay.
Coog. Like he's
I
been
saw a
locking down
video in
in
which he was
Coog.
practicing. He was practicing hitting the ball, right? I
Yeah.
alone. Okay. Do you meet Rohan Joshua when you go to Coorg? I mean, do you meet him in Bangalore?
Not really, because our schedules are so crazy. So as a tennis player, I think they travel way more than squash players, and he's always on the road, three-fourth of the time. So if I'm in Bangalore, he's not there, and if I go to Coog, the one time a year that I do go to Coog, he's definitely not there when I'm there. So we
He's
always
saying
miss each
hello
other.
to
Like,
he's saying hello to you all. Lockdown, can't complain at all. Enjoying it. You're right. Rohan is enjoying himself.
so
Fantastic, fantastic. And Joshua, I have to tell you about another fan. Her name is Jenny. She said she's a big fan of yours.
really,
And
she's so cute.
she's a massive football fan. If you ask me the most passionate fan in Tamil Nadu, she could be the one. She is
Oh, I
like the
didn't know.
warrior of Chennai FC.
I just did an interview with her for Double Trouble a week back,
Oh,
and
okay,
she's
okay.
pretty good. She's a good host.
Amazing, amazing, amazing football fan. And Muthu asked you a complex question in simple terms. Joshna, how do you youngsters achieve consistency? How do they remain consistent in the sport? Any tip to him?
I just think having a very structured program, like I said, surrounding yourself with a very good team, because it's sport is very hard. You're not going to win every match. You're going to go through all kinds of phases of being up and down. So I think it's important to not let your losses or your hard times in sport get you down, as well as not take your victories super seriously. It's just trying to be a better athlete, a better whatever sport you play, a better like for me, a better squash player, every day, so that I can keep giving my best. And I think that's what leads to being consistent.
Joshua, another question from a football fan and a football administrator is Mazar is from Ooty. He has asked you, did you enjoy playing at Express Avenue? Question number one. Second was, how was it playing during the Nicole David era?
So that's actually a great question, because that playing at Express Avenue Mall for the Asian Championships, that was when I won my first Asian Championships. It was it was crazy. Like, the experience was just amazing, because I would go, and I don't really play on home turf, very much, let alone in a public place. And obviously, at a mall, you're going to have everybody there, people you don't know, like people interested in suddenly seeing the game, from the third floor of them shopping, and, people screaming and all of that. So it was a bit nerve-wracking initially, because I was playing in my home crowd with not just a small home crowd, it's like with everybody from Chennai, literally. So it was just about trying to stay focused, not getting too overwhelmed by the occasion, so I could still focus on playing my match. And that day when I played the finals at Express Avenue Mall is a match that I'll never forget, because I think there were 3,000-4,000 people at the mall. They were screaming. It was a great rush, and to win as well on top of that was very special.
And he also asked you about the experience
Oh,
of playing
uh,
during the Nicole David era.
I mean, Nicole is a absolute legend. She dominated from the time I really was a junior, and I never really ended up beating her until towards the end of her career. A couple of years before her career. So I
You
think
better in
easily,
2018.
yeah. So at least I got one or two victories. So I'm gonna take that. But I think she won about 20 times, and I won about two times. So you can see how good she was.
He was the Don Broadman of squash, can I say that? It
Yeah,
was
she
such
for
a, such
sure.
a big name.
Absolutely.
And Joshna, you've been the face of squash in India, not even Tamil Nadu, in India, for nearly 2 decades. So, did you derive some satisfaction from playing at Express Avenue, making your sport more popular, taking it to the masses? So, not many people know the intricacies of the sport. Playing in a public place would have helped for taking the sport to others, right? People who may not have seen squash.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it just showed squash in such a different light, to the public who don't usually know or see what squash is all about. They might probably read my name occasionally, in the papers, but when you ask them what squash is all about, they don't really, know as much. So I think these are great platforms to have to market the sport, to promote the players, to increase the visibility overall of the sport. And it's such a beautiful sport to watch live, if you ask me, because the energy in the room when it's in a public place is just a different atmosphere altogether. So I think that was it was great that it happened, and I hope they continue to have more such events at these places.
Okay, and Vikas Mehra has asked you, which is the best training facility you have trained at so far, all over the world?
I think this Vikas is also someone I train with at the academy. So so I would say a couple of the best places I've trained is obviously here in Chennai at the Indian Squash Academy. It's a beautiful facility. It's got 8 state-of-the-art squash courts and a good training program. So I've enjoyed my time when I go there to train, as well as I train in England as well, in Bristol. So I have a team there that I work with. So I really enjoy my time as well in England training and getting ready for the season.
When you are in England, I have to ask you this question. Are you a Chelsea fan or an Arsenal fan? You posed in front of the Chelsea stadium and you posed with Petr Petr was when you was at Arsenal. So I have to ask you, as an Arsenal fan, Chelsea or Arsenal?
So that's because I know Peter. So I actually met him, got to know him because we have the same psychologist, and that's how I got to meet him.
Oh.
And he was at Chelsea when I met him, and then the next year when I met him again, he had moved to Arsenal. So it's not like
Better club.
so it's not.
Better club, more successful club.
I don't watch much of football, but I hear Peter's quite a big deal. So I mean,
Okay, and what a champion! I from the photo I could guess that you were close. You knew him really well from that photo itself. It was good to know. And what a professional, Joshna. Even though he excelled when he was at Chelsea, have to admire his professionalism and
Oh yes,
focus.
absolutely. He's so knowledgeable, like the time that I've spent with him, and he's so good with mind stuff and trying to be a better player, a better for him a footballer. And it was just great to hear all his stories. He has so many stories to tell. So I definitely learned a lot from him and his insights to sport.
Yeah, especially he bounced back from that injury, head injury, how
Yeah.
he managed to bear that and
Because
then still do his job.
I didn't know why he wore that till I met him, and then
Oh.
he was explaining it. So I said, "Oh, is that why you wear that?" And he's like, "Yes, that's why I wear it." So yeah, it was quite gruesome. He was saying so.
And talking about injury, you also had your fair share of injuries, career. Can you tell us, Joshna, how did you overcome injuries? That's an important part of an athlete's career these days, and your experience will be very useful to our viewers because there are many. I see Abhisheka Shannon, she's a promising squash player. They would learn from you, right? From your experience. Please tell us.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I believe personally, my turning point in my career was my injury. I tore my ACL about 8 years back. So that's for people who don't know, is the ligament behind the kneecap. It snapped into two for me, and I needed full reconstructive surgery. And the sit out period is almost a year. So and, to not have a career for a year is almost like you can be done. But I looked at it as an opportunity to be born again a little bit, to go back and really start from scratch to see what I needed to do to become the squash player that I wanted to always be, and it kind of just put me on the right path that it got me to work with some of the best coaches post that. And yeah, from then I haven't really looked back, because I just made all these changes to my lifestyle, to my training, to the people that I wanted to be surrounded, by in my team, and they really helped me get to where I am today.
Okay, that's inspirational, Joshna. And Mazhar, I asked another question. Who is a better opponent or a fiercer opponent? Jenny Duncalf or Rahim El Veligi?
So Jenny has been world number 2 in the past, and when she was at her peak, she was pretty awesome, unstoppable. And they're kind of a two different generations, but overlapping each other. Raneem is obviously the current world champion. So obviously at this stage, I'm going to say Raneem, and then like a few years back, it would be Jenny.
Joshua, you told us about your father's interest in squash and how you took up squash. You had also played badminton. At that time, squash may have been familiar to you, but to many other people, squash was almost an exotic sport in 2000, 3. I mean, did you later on ever regret taking up squash? Did you think maybe not many people know about my sport? If I had taken up tennis or badminton, that would have helped me to get more mileage or your achievements would have reached more people, right? Did you ever think like that?
I've never ever regretted taking squash. I'm very glad I chose squash. But the number of times I've heard people tell me, why didn't you play tennis? Why didn't you play badminton? Is way more than I've ever thought about it. And yeah, some sports definitely get a lot more recognition and a lot more, fame and name, like you said, and all of that. But I mean, I never really, when you start a sport at 9 years old, you're not thinking of, I want to be famous
Oh,
or I'm going to make money or any of that. And I really believe squash does not, you don't make obviously the kind of, adulation and fame and money the way tennis and badminton and other sports do. But that's never really been my concern. Like, I just love what I do and I just want to achieve as much as I can.
do still people ask you how to play squash? How is it played in airports or in some functions? Some people you may be meeting.
Sorry, can you say
Do they
that
ask
again?
you? Do they ask you how to play squash in public places even today, even after 20 years of
Yeah,
your career?
so many people have asked me, and I just pull out my phone, I go to YouTube, I just type in squash, and like whatever match comes up over there, I'm like, see, there's four walls, there's two people inside, and we hit the ball and all of that.
Just like you had to tell a newcomer, why should you take up a squash? What would be the one piece of advice or guidance you would give? One reason, probably, to play squash.
I think, it's such a beautiful sport. There's a lot of opportunities that come, with playing squash. Of course, you can be really good. You can play for India and, all those dreams, but you can also play squash and also go abroad and, study and get a good degree, as well. So I definitely think squash can definitely open up a lot of opportunities for you. And at the end of the day, it's if you're going to be good at a sport, you are going to pursue it as professionally as you can, because I think today a lot of people would love to play for India, and I think a lot of kids are encouraged by so many top athletes doing well. And yeah, and more than that, squash is just it's just such a beautiful game. So and I'm obviously partial to it. So
And Joshua, are you hopeful of seeing squash in the Olympics during your career? That would be a huge leap for squash, and I'm sure you'll be thrilled for that to happen when that happens.
oh, absolutely. I mean, this is another question I get asked all the time about squash being in the Olympics. And yeah, it's really unfortunate that we're not in the Olympics. There are a lot of other sports that you might have heard of that are there in the Olympics. And you think, wait, why is squash not in the Olympics? And because we check all the boxes, to fit into an Olympic sport. But it is what it is. But at the same time, the sport has grown leaps and bounds. It's made a lot of improvements. We're at the Commonwealth Games, we're at the Asian Games. It's played by over 200 countries, all around the world. And the only thing we can really do is just focus on getting it better and better, so that IOC can hopefully include it.
Another champion has come online. Parupalli Kashyap. He's saying hi, Josh.
Hey, how are you?
Okay. And when I was a journalist, when I started my career in Hyderabad, I interviewed him when he was 14
Oh,
in
Kashyap.
Hyderabad. Kashyap, yeah. I used to cover badminton in Hyderabad. I started my
Yeah.
journalism career in Hyderabad. I used to cover Sania. I did, I mean, when Sania broke through, I interviewed her in Hyderabad. They may not remember me now,
Yeah.
but I moved to
Hyderabad
Chennai.
is like Chennai as well. Like a lot of athletes have come out from these two two places.
Yeah, then he say 14 just yesterday. Then
He still looks 18, so he can say that. Like,
then Saina will say, I'm not even born. And look, Kashyap was a studious guy. Given that time, I think he should study well and very intelligent guy. He was a pioneer.
he's quite multi-talented now. He's juggling, he's singing, he's doing everything. Okay.
He's pulling her back. She is. Saina is older than me. Hey, man.
Yeah.
It's making it clear that I didn't talk about Joshna. I'm talking about Saina. Hey, this is too much, man.
Yeah, I hope so.
Okay. And Robin Charles Raja, Abhishek's father, is a good friend. He's telling us a humble legend, Joshna. That's a great compliment, Joshna.
I don't know about legend, but I definitely thank you. That's very nice of him to say.
You are definitely a pioneer because when you are playing, we can't call you a legend because you have done so much for the sport. To take the sport to many people, to inspire many kids, right? So you are a pioneer. I have no hesitation saying that. Cool and nice to see you guys. Bye. Kashyap is busy now, so he's saying bye to us. Thank you, Kashyap. Thank you for saying hi to us. Yeah, very good question, Joshna. I think you're the right person to ask that. Why is Egypt a very powerful nation in squash? What are they doing differently? This is a question I wanted to ask you. Priya Sanjana has asked you.
So, Egypt, it's a small country and they have many, many squash clubs. Like there are probably like say 10, 15 clubs in Cairo. Each club has 10, 12 squash courts. So just imagine the number of kids who have access to a club in Egypt is actually a lot because the culture there is very club oriented. The clubs are huge. There's a lot of recreational, activities at these clubs. So a lot of people take up squash there. And more than that, because they've had so many champions that they've always had people to look up to, and people have inspired the next generations to come forward and play the game. And also they have very good coaches there. There's so many good coaches, in each club, in fact. And because the competition is so high within the clubs itself, that automatically leads to so many players coming out of Egypt, and also the up and coming juniors they're fearless. When I'm training over there in Egypt, when I have in the past, I would hit with a 10-year-old girl who would hit the ball as hard as I am. So the level of what they're playing at such a young age is something what I would have played at when I was 14, 15. So that's the difference. And it's not just one girl. There'll be like 10 girls who are 11 years old who are playing like that. So eventually at least 3 or 4 will be really good. So that's how
Okay.
it
And
gets.
is there any historical reason, Joshna, for Egypt being so good in squash? Is there anything to do with their history or any historic reason, do you know, for their
Also, they
success
don't
in
have
squash?
they don't have many sports there. They only have football and literally squash. There's only these two sports that are
Oh,
really well known and that people focus on. So people concentrate on squash a lot more in Egypt, and especially because, like I said, there's so many champions from Egypt. You don't have just one person leading the group. You have like several champions. So I think that inspires the junior lot quite tremendously.
in the women's section, top three are from Egypt, I think, right now, in
Yes,
world ranking. Yeah.
yes. The top four, I
And Mo
think, are Egypt.
Salah, in football, Mo Salah has taken Egypt to everywhere. He's such a star, Liverpool forward,
Exactly,
Mo Salah.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. He's
You would
solid.
have
Yeah.
realized when you were in Egypt, right, how big he is in
Yeah,
Egypt.
yeah, because actually a lot of the top squash players are very good friends with Mo Salah. So I
Oh,
always see
okay.
all their pictures with him. Every time they come to England and we go to England to play, they meet Mo Salah over there, and so they all obviously know each other because Egypt is such a small country, and if you're doing obviously well, everyone knows everyone.
Do you enjoy your time, Joshna, in Egypt? Such a historic country with culture and language and whatnot, heritage. And I also saw you enter stadium, sorry, stands with the pyramids in the background, the splash court. It was beautiful. I saw that photo on your Insta. It was just stunning. So much history. That court had history behind it, right behind it, the pyramids. So could you tell us about your experience of playing, training, living in Egypt?
Actually, Egypt is a beautiful country. Every time I've gone there, it's been so nice. The people are great. The culture is very, very dignified, very modern. So I don't really feel like I'm going to a Middle Eastern sort of African country. I kind of feel like I'm in Europe, quite a bit because everyone's just so, like I said, modern and having a great time. And it's just nice to be, in that energy. The thing that obviously the pyramid tournament is one of the most special places that I've ever played at. It's like you said, it's iconic, it's historic. It's easy to get overwhelmed, when you're seeing this
Yeah, yeah.
beautiful court, and especially when the lights are on and it's dark and you see the pyramids at the back. It's so breathtaking, and yeah, everyone wants to play their best there. They want to showcase their game as well as they can, and it's a very special place to be at.
Joshua, one of watching a football match in Egypt, especially between Al Ahly and Zamalek, is on my bucket list. I don't know whether I will do that. No, so passionate that derby, Al Ahly versus Zamalek. I've heard a lot about that
Yes.
in Egypt. And I also wanted to watch one African Nations Cup of match in Egypt. When that happens, the entire country comes to a standstill.
Oh, absolutely,
African Nations
absolutely.
Cup.
Yes.
And do people recognize you, Joshna? There, you are a top 10 and top 12 player in squash. When you go for shopping or to restaurants, do people recognize you because squash is immensely popular in Egypt?
I mean, not in Egypt. I mean, technically, I'm still a stranger there. Obviously, they would recognize their players more, than me. But squash is very, very well known. I will say that squash is very well known.
And I know I've read in an interview you idolize P.T. Usha's achievement. I mean, P.T. Usha and respect her achievements, what she has done in her sport. Could you elaborate on that, Joshna? What inspired you in P.T. Usha's career?
I mean, there's what can I say? She's achieved everything and anything, and in a field like athletics, like she was totally the trailblazer, for women's athletics, and she won almost everything she had. She came from very, very humble beginnings. She's so down to earth. She's so focused on helping athletes today, so yeah, I've always just admired her for what she's achieved and for the person that she is, and it's something I take inspiration from.
Okay, there is another interesting question. Josh, if you had to choose one person as your quarantine partner, who would it be? Sania, Sindhu, HS Pranay, and Bopanna?
Uh,
Tricky question.
I am going to say Sindhu because she's very funny, and I think we would have a good time together.
Fantastic, fantastic. You are not diplomatic. I'm very happy that no, you gave us right answer. Fantastic. That is a. I mean, you're a good sport. And another person has asked this question. Yosha, do you know Tamil? How good is your Tamil?
Actually, I was asked to do this interview in Tamil, and I said no way because I do speak Tamil, but my Tamil is not great. And if there's a camera or an interview that I'm doing, immediately my brain freezes and I forget whatever Tamil that I do know because I become so conscious about it. And as much as I've lived here in Chennai, I've also traveled so much, so I never really spoke a lot of Tamil growing up. But I will say my Tamil has improved a lot more after I joined TNED, and people are very patient with me and my awful Tamil. but but I'm getting better. I'm getting better.
That means you can sing in Tamil, not
Yeah,
speak.
very bad
Can you
Tamil.
sing in Tamil then?
No way. I'm surprised I've not got hit yet. Like I'm literally waiting for someone to hit me.
I mean, is there any Tamil song do you listen to quite often? Because Tamil songs are universally popular. In Kerala, I think they only listen to Tamil songs. So, is there any song that is particularly, I mean, you like?
Mm, I like. I think there was this movie called Roja, and I don't know what
Everybody
the
knows
name
that
of that
movie.
song is. I watched
Chinna
that.
Chinna
What
Aasai.
is?
Chinna Chinna
What's it?
Aasai.
No, was
புது
it
வெள்ளை மழை, காதல் ரோஜாவே,
yes, the one before. The
புது வெள்ளை மழை.
Yes, that is a really good
புது
song.
வெள்ளை மழை. Okay, I can't sing. That's very bad. So, yeah, that's only made song. Yeah, yeah. And who's your favorite actor? Priya Sanjana is asking you. Who's your favorite
Oh,
actor? It
you
could
know
be
what?
from
I
any.
decided I'm not answering this question because the last time I answered this question, the fan
Okay.
club of this particular actor just was like so excited. They were so excited, and so I'll leave it for now.
Okay. That's good. No problem. And do you? Kartikeya has asked this question. Kartikeya Subaya. Do you go to Coorg often? How often do you go to Coorg? Because I saw quite a few beautiful pictures in front of a pond and in Coorg. Tell us how to a journey to Coorg.
So my dad lives there actually. So he has his coffee plantation, which he manages. And anytime I get time to go from the tour and I have a little break in Chennai, I just take a train and I go to Mysore and he comes, he picks me up and then we go to Coorg. I hang out with him for like a few days, a week. He cooks, he looks after me, we hang out, we play tennis, we play all sports. I go into the estate with him, he will show me how his coffee is doing and all of that. And yeah, it's a good time. It's very relaxed, very peaceful. It's a beautiful place, like you said. So I have a nice time there.
And Joshna, many people go to Coorg to unwind. You call it home. You're fortunate, really.
Yes, yes, very
And
fortunate.
no, yeah, Vishnu has asked you a very good question. Workout tip for the lockdown because you can't escape this question because you are such a fit person. And one tip for the lockdown, maybe a simple tip which all ordinary mortals like us can do.
I think this might be my neighbor who's asking me this. He has seen me work out in the terrace of my building. Just basic stuff, because obviously the space is so limited now, and because we were in lockdown, a more serious lockdown for the last 60 days. Just try and do some own body weight exercises, skipping, things like that. Do a little bit of running on the terrace. So nothing major, but just enough to keep fit.
And Joshua, Lavanya has asked this interesting question. How do you concentrate in squash? Is it difficult to concentrate in squash because you are in a tight space, right? You don't have a huge court like tennis, open air, or football field or a hockey field. Is it difficult to concentrate?
It's okay. The thing with squash is that you've seen the courts being put in some of the most beautiful places in the world. So they put a court in the middle of Grand Central Station in New York. So you have passengers going up and down in front of you. So and then you can play in the middle of an outdoor place in another country. So the thing with squash is that because these locations are so beautiful and it promotes the sport, we're so excited to be playing there, and the thing is that once you get on court, you just cut out all distractions naturally. Like squash players we just know that when we get on court, that's it. Like nothing can interfere too much with our concentration. And also people from outside can see us. So the gallery that surrounds the court can see us, but we cannot really see anyone from inside unless we really focus. But our eyes on the squash ball. So,
Oh, do you do any special training to improve your concentration, focus? Do you do yoga or something like that? Because it's important for all sportsmen to stay tuned, right? Do you do any special exercise?
yeah, absolutely. I personally think mental training can be sometimes more important than physical training. To just get your body in alignment with your mind. It can be hard sometimes. There are a lot of distractions. You can lose your focus a little bit. So there's a lot of pressure. You're dealing with anxiety. There's all kinds of emotions we humans are going through, all the time. So it's very important to train your mind to be able to, stay focused, have your goals still there in front of you. And yeah, I would definitely recommend a lot of meditation, a lot of yoga, a lot of visualization, and just trying to be as positive as you can in negative situations. Easier said than done, but that's where the meditation and the yoga help.
Joshua, what's your favorite food? In an interview to Julie, Santosh's wife, and in 2012, you had said rice, rasam, and mango pickle. Is that the same?
Yes, I've been having so much of rice, curd, rasam, and mango pickle in this lockdown that I need a change. Like literally, I just love my South Indian food. I love rice, rasam is just my thing of Chennai. Like when I come home, that's the first thing I want to have from a long flight or when I've traveled abroad and come back. So it's my favorite.
That's going to be a takeaway for many people. The reason for Joshna's excellence and longevity is curd rice, rasam, mango pickle. I have to ask this question as well about your great grand uncle came Cariappa. He was a field marshal, five-star general. Could you tell us about him? And obviously you would have met him, right? You have any fond memories?
He's actually my great grand uncle, so he's my grandmother's mother's brother, and I have met him many, many times. In fact, I met him towards when he was not very well. He was at the hospital, so every time I would go see him at the hospital, he would always have these candies next to him, and I was a little girl, all I wanted was those candies, and he would always tell me that I'll only give it to you if you sing the national anthem. So in my broken English, every day, every time when I went to see him as a 5-year-old, I had to sing Jana Gana Mana, and and he was so patriotic, But I have such a fond memory of singing the national anthem to him, and that's when he would open the box and give me chocolates.
And I don't think India would forget Field Marshal Cariappa and Manek Shah. They were special. They were the only five-star generals.
Very,
So,
very special, very
yeah.
special.
And I also read one of your lockdown interviews. They were very philosophical. You said something interesting. I mean, you are looking at yourself. I mean, quite a lot of philosophical points were there. What has the lockdown taught you? Could you tell us briefly? I mean, you have been traveling all over the world for the last 20 years. Now you are confined in one place. So, how different is this experience? What has basically the lockdown taught you?
Like I said, I think initially when the lockdown happened, it was great. I was happy that, I get to be in one place for a little longer time because I'm so used to taking a flight every week to compete. And I just wanted this time to relax. And then as time got longer, you're itching to go to the courts, you're itching to, go train. And, but fortunately, I've been very fortunate to have be comfortable during the whole time, be able to train, within my home spaces. So for me, the challenge of not playing or not training was not something that really upset me too much, because to be honest, this has been such a hard and emotional time for everyone in this country who are less fortunate than us. So for me to say it was hard for me is wrong because there are people who are in far worse situations than me, and that's what it really just taught me to just appreciate what we have, and to be grateful that we're in a position to do so much and to be able to help other people. And so it was just time to spend with my family, think of what I wanted to do post all of this, and yeah, just be more sensitive to people who are going through a hard time.
Well said, Joshna. I think we need empathy more than anything else now. To think about people who are less fortunate than us. Very well said. I really appreciate that. And we have spoken about your mom and dad, but not about your brother. So we get to keep him happy. So tell us something about your brother. Your younger brother looks who's so taller than you. I know you look like his younger sister actually. What's his name?
I,
What is he up to? Did he play
his
sport?
name his name is Gaurav, and he is a final year PG at Ramachandra. And I just love when people say that he looks older than me because I just love telling him also the same thing. So,
Tell
so
him that I
everyone,
also said that.
and he gets really angry. He's like, "What? I look so much younger than you." I said, "No, you're 7 foot tall. Like everyone thinks you're much older." And we have a very interesting dynamic. Like I don't talk to him all the time or message him all the time, but I make fun of him all the time. When I see him. So we have a very healthy relationship. We have good laughs. He's really funny. but he's also very much of an introvert, so if I knock on his door and I'm like, let's hang, he's like, no, not now, and he won't even open the door. He's just from
Okay.
inside. He'll be like, no, I don't want to talk. So he's very introverted. Yeah, he likes his own space. He has very few friends, and he's the opposite of me.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I mean, there is no resemblance, Joshna, between you and your brother Gaurav. It looks totally different. I mean, it'd be difficult to say that there is some resemblance
Yeah,
between
no,
you.
we look actually very different.
That's,
He looks a lot like my mom. So when I was younger, a lot of people
yeah,
thought I was adopted, you know, because because I didn't look like either of them. But I look like my dad, So, but yeah, we're
yeah.
apparently
That was
related.
one thing. That was one thing that used to upset me when I was saying. My parents used to keep, saying, you were not born to us, you adopted you. I used to cry a lot when they were saying. I think this is a trick of many parents to pull their children's leg.
Yeah, I know, but the thing is that I always tell him that I'm the favorite child, which is not true. But I just like telling him that. So.
Okay. And I also had to ask you about Preeti Srinivasan, with whom you are great friends. Tell us about how inspirational she has been to many people. And I saw you taking a time off to be of support to her, Preeti Srinivasan, who has spinal cord injury.
Actually, I met Preeti a few years back at an awards function, and like a person like me who does not interact with many people who have had spinal cord injury, I was not aware of how uh, how important an issue this is for us. And it's only after I spoke to her that I understood like how many challenges someone like Preeti faces every day. And imagine people who are not as fortunate, who have had bad accidents, who have no help, who have families who don't want them anymore in their home. And it's so a lot of the stories I heard was just so it was so hard, to hear all of them. And here she is, going out of her way in her tough situation to help all these people was just unbelievable. Like she does more with her life than I do anytime, and for me to witness that, to hear that is just so inspirational, and to just be grateful that we have this body to walk, to run, to do whatever we want, and so I learned a lot from her situation as well, what she goes through, how she has coped, how she has managed, and how she is now building a rehabilitation center for people like herself who don't have access, who don't have the money, and how many lives she has changed, helped. It's amazing.
Absolutely, Joshna. And she's truly inspirational. I'm so glad that you take your time off. You have a busy schedule. Still, you have time for her. I've seen you attending quite a few functions of hers. The last with Michigan doing the Psycho, some film related function, I think. He took some inspiration from her doing the film, director Michigan. I saw you in that function as well. I'm very glad that a sports person is so considerate, and I know you are helping her in whatever way possible. Very, very glad. No, please
Thank
accept
you.
our
No, I mean,
congratulations.
I just hope that people, our society, we accept everyone, to be able to move freely, and that's the hardest part for people like them, that they cannot move freely. There's no roads, there's no pavements for them to live a normal life, when actually they're just like you and me. There's nothing really different about them. They still have the same feelings, same emotions. So they need to be helped a lot more.
Now, one of my relatives is working in IIT Madras in manufacturing these chairs for people with disabilities. They can stand in the chair sitting from the sitting position. He takes a lot of pride in doing research in that field. When I saw her photograph, I thought about her. She recently designed one standing chair. They can stand while moving some levers from the wheelchair.
Oh, superb, lovely.
And Joshna, and finally, we've got to finish the interview. We have only 2, 3 minutes. I'll ask you one more question. Favorite hero in squash, sport, and life?
Okay. My favorite hero in squash. correct?
Yeah, squash, sport, and life.
In squash, it's going to be, I really like Jonathan Power. He was an ex-world champion, so he's been one of my favorite players. And did you say in sport?
Sport, general,
In
outside
sport?
squash.
Um, wow, there are so many, that I'm going
One
to say PT
person?
Usha. She's my favorite.
Okay,
PT Usha is my favorite.
great, great.
And in
Life?
life, wow. Um, who is my inspiration in life? Um, can I just say so many people have touched my life. So many people have
Yeah, that's
inspired
okay.
me. It's not one person. So
That's
I
okay. That's
have
okay.
been helped by so many people. So all of them, everyone who has helped me.
And you are an inspiration to so many budding squash players, Yoshna. It was
Thank
a
you.
pleasure
Thank you.
talking to you, and I
Thank you
appreciate
so
your
much.
joining us on your Insta Live. I hope you too enjoyed this
Thank you. I
session.
had a great
It
time.
was
Thank
a
you.
thanks a lot. We will not forget it because a champion, a durable champion, who has been playing a sport fantastically for more than 2 decades. It's an honor for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Raghu. Thank you so much.